All right, welcome. Thank you guys for making it on a Thursday morning. I'm Kim Storin. I am the Chief Marketing Officer at Zoom, and I'm so excited because I get to ask the questions on this one.
Yes.
So I'm just excited to hear the answers. And I thought maybe why don't we go around and introduce themselves, and then tell us how your night went last night. But keep it short. Keep it short. We'll start down here.
I will keep it short.
Are you on?
Hang on. Is it on?
This is how our night went last night.
This is already explaining a lot. There we go. I will keep it short. My night last night was not short. I'm Grace Briscoe from Basis Technologies. So I'm our EVP of Client Development on behalf of our U.S. sales team. We're an advertising automation platform. I'm delighted to have you all here. I am sweating rosé currently. I made rookie choices last night. So I will do my best to form coherent sentences today on limited sleep.
Don Sklenka, I'm SVP of AI optimization at Claritas. I run our AI product. I think I made the most adult decision here on the panel by going to bed at 1:30 in the morning. So look at that, what a pro. What a pro.
I'm Dan Granger. I'm the CEO of Oxford Road. We're an ad agency. We're the largest buyer of podcast media. We also do audio creator work. I was semi-responsible last night. We finished our last business meeting around midnight, and then I got home by 2, so it was great. I drank all my can quota the night before, so I'm good.
Wait, I didn't know there was a quota.
Hi everyone, I'm Elizabeth Dobbs. I'm the AVP of Marketing, Technology, Data, and Growth at Databricks, which is an AI company who runs a lot of data platforming for kind of the largest brands that you know globally.
Hi everyone, I'm Danny Fiore. I'm VP of Sales and Industry Partnerships for the Weather Company. I am not the most popular person on the Croissant this year. I feel the need to.
The weather company does not control the weather.
That's right. That's right. We
Hot
predict
take.
the weather. We cannot control it. That is right. I apologize for the excessive heat, but fun fact, Cannes is actually the coolest city in France right now. Yeah. The rest of the country, it's about 104 degrees, and so here at a cool 87 degrees, it's basically winter. So there you go.
Thank you. Hi everyone, my name's Michael Baston. I'm the Global VP of Ad Tech Solutions at Acast. So if you don't know us, Acast is the world's largest independent 360-degree podcast company, which is to say that we host, distribute, and monetize for over 150,000 shows across 100 markets around the world. So in terms of my nights last night, I was actually not too bad. And the reason for that, so I was about 2:30 finished, but the reason for that is I'm actually feeling very guilty because my daughter, who's 9, Saoirse, is right now performing as Dorothy in The Wizard of Oz with her school performance, and I'm in the shit because I'm not there. And what is worse, she's performing again tomorrow morning, and I'm also not going to be there. So I'm going to have to buy some stuff in like the Rue d'Antique, basically. But apparently she's also attempting a Kansas accent, so I don't know what that's going to sound like. But thank you.
I love it.
Yeah, do you guys know what that is?
Kansans actually pride themselves on having no accent. But there are certain words, like they say crick instead of
Okay.
creek, and like.
Okay, good.
But
How
I
long?
don't think that comes up in the Wizard of Oz. No, my husband's from Iowa.
Okay, all right, that's good.
A neighboring
isn't it? Yeah.
state, adjacent. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you all for being here. And unfortunately, I think I had the most boring night. I went to bed at 11, but I was listening to music all night. So I got as much sleep as y'all did, and I had none of that fun. So I had birds the night before and music last night. So anyway, let's get into the meat of it. We've had our fun. Let's get serious. The job of marketing used to be about making things look good. But now it's all about proving things out. Every day I'm having conversations with my CFO, who is fabulous. She's amazing. We went to Lady Gaga together. She's great, but she wants attribution.
Yep.
She wants to understand what we're spending and how it's driving growth. And as the daughter of a CFO, I think about that a lot because I've been reconciling receipts since I was 10. Very good at that. But the dynamics in the equation have changed, right? It's not just about being able to, show your receipts anymore. It's now about showing growth, showing that ROI. And so now we're in a place where AI just blew everything up. And everything we thought we knew about how to find buyers is also blown up because people are starting their discovery process, especially in B2B, now through a very different method, which is the LLMs. And then they don't want to talk to a company like Zoom until they're almost at their short list. So that really changes how we think about marketing. So I'm not gonna go too much on like my spiel because I've already talked about it 14 other times this week, but I do have questions, and I'm really excited to be here today with all of these experts on this panel who are going to help me go back to my CEO, my CFO, and my board who keep asking me, what are we delivering and how is it driving growth? And these guys have answers. So we're just gonna basically this is my opportunity to get all my questions answered. So we're gonna start with some scenarios. My CFO, she doesn't want reach. She does not want to see my brand health scores. And she wants a number that we can take to the board together and say, this is what marketing made us. So I want to start there. You've got $500,000. How do you prove incremental lift? Grace, this one's for you. Not correlation, not reach, but actual lift.
I would have a lot of questions. I would have follow-up questions to that. If you were my client and coming to me with that, I would want to really understand, are we trying to drive incremental sales from current customers, or like lifetime customer value, acquire new customers? What's the objective? Because that's going to change the tactics. So I feel like I would have a lot more questions than I would have answers, but I would want to make sure we're also focusing on brand, focusing on that, because I think there is a tendency to slip too much into the lower funnel and taking little swings, like using incremental in the other way of like incremental gains instead of big swings. You've taken some big swings, so I feel like you probably understand.
Yeah, absolutely. Audio. Let's turn to audio. Audio has no visual ID. They have no cookie, no pixel. How do you solve attribution, Dan, in a channel that's essentially, at least to me, in my seat, feels like we're flying blind?
I have good news for you. I don't want to tell you about my friends at Claritas. So, I mean, we've got a data set of over $2 billion of historic performance data from brands. Probably between 90 and 100% of the dollars we'll place this year, which is going to be over $600 million of what you might call audio as an umbrella term, will be measurable in some way. If you're Zoom, on a lot of the audio channels, you can pixel. You can't cookie, but you can pixel. You need to use a holdout group if you're looking for incrementality. You don't want to just assume that it's all directly attributable. If you can convert online, you should have a redundant survey. There should be a how'd you hear about a survey. It should have a second layer to it that asks people what show, station, whatever, that uses predictive text, and you can get very precise data. Radio is probably the hardest leg of the audio stool. Streaming is maybe the most easily measurable. Where we really focus, and I think the most special part of the audio ecosystem, is podcasting. Everybody loves podcasts. Raise your hand if you love a podcast. Yeah, it's a medium that has more trust than pretty much any channel. Social influencers don't touch podcasters in terms of their influence. But the problem is it's a hybrid. It is fully audio and it is fully creator media, and it is neither one or the other exclusively. So you have to apply different instrumentation, and you have to deal with the YouTube problem. where you now have so much distribution and consumption happening there, and you cannot just carry your pixel over through that distribution. So you have to triangulate, you have to model. But short answer is, it's very easy to do, and you can de-risk it by finding other B2B players that are kind of in that prosumer bracket or big B2B, and you go, what programs worked for other people reaching similar consumers that they bought time and time again? And you can really create, I mean, we have scores that can actually tell you percentage to goal for all these, and $500,000 should be adequate to prove incrementality.
Interesting. So once you find that winning audience then in audio, how do you actually scale it without killing your efficiency? I don't know, Dan, if you want to start this, Michael.
Sure.
Yeah.
too.
You want to take first crack?
You want to go ahead? Okay, I'll go ahead. So, well, thank you for the question. First of all, I think it's just slightly referencing, what Dan was just saying. At Acast and other podcast companies that are available, attribution has built our business. It's as simple as that. But interestingly, I would say that attribution's been with podcasting for a very long time because you could have it as a creative call to action. But now, of course, we also work with Claritas as well, and who are doing a fantastic job for us in driving
Plug
a lot
it.
of new. There you go.
$20 every time.
Later,
20
bucks later. Yeah, it's good. But to move on to your question, I'll answer that in through the lens of formats, if I may. So there's three there that we're talking about really. One is host reads, which we all recognise. At Acast we call them sponsorship. Then there's branded content, and then there's audio ads as well, right? So the way that we're applying technology in order to deliver scale against that budget that you provided there. In terms of host read ads, so we built a tool called Smart Recommendations, which basically massively speeds up the process of receiving that RFP or that request from you, and our sales teams will be able to look across this vast selection of creative shows that we've got. The technology uses transcription, machine learning essentially, to just look at the conversations that are being had and make some recommendations, smart recommendations, about which shows they might consider running host reads in as well. Now, our friends at Oxford Road, as you said, have got an extraordinary data set. So we're bringing this to them all the time, and they're like stress testing it. And then in terms of branded content, we bought a company called Wonder Media a few years ago, a fantastic ladies-only production company. And what they do is they use a lot of data from a company called podchaser.com that we bought. They're thought of as like the IMDb of podcasting. And we can use that data to actually make decisions on the way that branded content should be constructed. And then finally, for audio ads, we use a mixture of contextual data targeting, which is using Podchaser data. We also work with companies like LiveRamp as well, Comscore predictive audiences, and various things like that. But the key thing, to your point earlier, is to make sure that the strategy that we're putting forward reflects, what it is that you're trying to prove back to your board.
And I'll just pile on to say, you want to spend at the diminishing return. You want to use behavior and actual sales to govern how far you can do it. But how do you keep from burning it out? I think you have to incrementally phase up. You can do a version of lookalikes, but at the end of the day, you want to follow a beaten path, and you want to have an experimental budget. And I think you can be disciplined. We've taken brands from a $50,000 test to 7 figures a month in budget in the channel, but it all goes one phase at a time. And I think you just have to be very disciplined. And the last thing I would say is forget MMM. It's not going to help you here. Knowing your channel return, first of all, I have real questions about its accuracy, but if you can't measure on a show-by-show basis, forget it. You need to be able to get relativity between asset.
Interesting. Okay. Well, so then if I think about my media mix, and I think about the fact that it is bloated, and I feel like we need fewer channels, ultimately. Fewer channels that are performing better. So how do I know when AI is actually improving performance versus when it might just be automating all the bad decisions a little bit faster? I don't know, Don.
Yeah, so this actually goes back to your first question too, is if you had $500,000, what would you do with it? Similar to some of the answers here, like I would never say take that $500,000 and spend it right away. So you need to think about this in phases. You need to have that first phase one of establishing your baseline, A. B, you've got to get out of letting media programs grade their own homework. Like, Facebook is going to give the highest ROAS to Facebook. Google, which owns everything, is going to give the highest grading to Google. I mean, it's just how it's going to work. If we ran it, we would say the same thing. So first and foremost, you've got to get your measurement, attribution, sales, whatever that may be, last click methodology out of the platforms that you're buying the media on. So so one, phase one, test. Two, get it out of the native platforms, do something independent. And so three is setting up a control group. So what is it that you are measuring? What is it you're doing? So it could be creative, it could be audience testing, it could be a different type of campaign. So if it's AI, fine. Line 1, BAU, no AI. Line 2, with AI. Keep that as consistent as possible. Remove all the other variables though. What often happens in these tests is that you'll have AI, and then you'll have AI with audiences that are different than the control, and you have AI with audiences and different creative than the control, and then you get results and well, they're okay, they're better, but you always have these variables in it. So like very strict testing will then give you that incrementality, and is AI performing? So phase 1, test. Phase 2, get out of the native grading. Phase 3, set up a control, and then your results are there. The other thing that often happens is that we will work with a brand, and we will give them the results. And the results are positive, but then they go right back to where they were going. So if the question is what do I do, and then we produce the results for you, the next logical step should be, okay, now taking that to the next level. And I can't tell you how many times.
Is there a reason why?
Like I've used this analogy before when I was at a panel a couple of years ago, is that you may know that the better party and the better panel is out there on a yacht, but you've got to go swim to go get it. So people will just naturally stay where it is here because they don't want to do something different. When you do something different, that puts your job at risk, that puts your brand at risk. So you just kind of go back to home base all the time. And so that's what we need to start thinking about is like, AI is another tool, just like any other ad tech platform is out there as another tool. So like, if you're going to actually set up an experiment, trust that experiment. And if it fails, that's a good thing too. Like you learn from that, but like often we run these tests and then everything just goes back to business as usual. So long-winded answer to your simple question.
Do you guys feel like that pushback that you might feel from clients is coming from the top? Like, is that a CMO pushback, or is that because the media lead is maybe pushing back?
I'll answer really quick so that it's hands on keys, folks.
Okay.
I think the people that are actually executing are nervous about their job and they don't want to do something different, and they're 100% utilized. Like they don't have any extra room in their daily life and they don't want to do something different.
So our job as CMOs is to inspire change and to give them the freedom
absolutely
to optimize
and, fail.
And
like
to try and fail fast.
Yes. You've got to be agile.
Yeah. Scale fast and fail fast. Awesome. Thank you for going deep there. So CRMs, right? They say one thing and product analytics says something totally different. Then my media dashboard says something completely different. And then when I ask for a single source of truth and like a single view, they say they'll come back in 6 weeks with a list of requirements. That's the life of a big enterprise. So I want a faster path, and I'm curious, maybe Liz, if you could unify like one data set that would unlock real ROI, which one would you start with?
That's a good one. So I'm just going to point of a parallel point on that. I've been working for my CMO for 6.5 years now, and I don't think I've ever made a dashboard he's remembered the URL to. So I would say, just to directly answer your question on like what data set I think has the most value, and that's the one sales likes. So I actually think a lot of times in marketing, we are very siloed, and I think there's so many like specific areas of marketing, like, the media brand team is so focused on their world, which is great, and the events team who are running these incredible events here are so focused on their world. But I think where we see the best traction is if we can get the metrics that other parts of the business can care about and help us leverage. Because that signal is actually what we found to be the most incredible missing piece in our marketing data. And the thing that makes our marketing campaigns the best is we can pull direct product consumption data against it, or we can make our marketing campaigns tied to direct like product and new customer outcomes, or what sales actually got a meeting from. Like those are the data sets, and unifying those things are actually, I think, the biggest unlock for us.
Yeah, I agree. And I think getting away from this feeling that sales is from Saturn and marketing is from Mars is like the biggest, even if it's, not optimal, but if you are aligned.
Yeah, I mean, go back to your point on like, hey, you wanna go to your board? Have the CRO go to your board for you. Like that is, I think, the thing, because I think that's where I think we've fallen down a lot is like our CMO feels like he has to be the one who's always championing marketing. And when the CMO champions brand spend, everyone just tunes you out. I mean, even if you have like the best measurement.
Amen. From a head of sales. Amen.
But if the head of sales is like, hey, all this brand investment is helping us unlock doors, get first meetings, everyone's like, great, go do more.
Right.
Like so.
Right. Absolutely. I love that. Got to have a champion. So Danny, I want to turn to you. I mean, queen of data here.
Actually, that's my queen of data right
Nothing.
She's the data queen.
Tell us, how do you know if your data is actually ready for AI?
Well, I don't think that your data needs to be perfectly unified, right? But it does need
Otherwise,
to be...
we'd never get there.
That's right. But it does need to be trusted. It needs to be directionally accurate. AI can work across a number of different systems, but what it can't do is fix bad data, right? So there are a couple of things that you need to consider. One, do the different sources tell a consistent story, right? If your CRM data is telling you that a customer is engaged, but your usage platform is telling you that that customer has not logged in 3 to 4 weeks, so that's a trust problem, right? So you don't need one database, but you do need the data points to make sense together. And then the other thing to think through is, does your data connect actions to outcomes, right? I think if you know that a customer has joined a webinar, then they requested a demo, and then they went silent for 3 months, but then all of a sudden they converted. Do your sources allow you to see that full customer journey, right? AI learns from cause and effect, even if it comes from different systems. And then the last thing I would say, and it almost goes along the lines of how do you know if your AI is making more bad decisions, is your data set well-rounded, right? Does it include predictive signals, right? Because if you're only looking at historical, that's what somebody did. It's not telling you what somebody's about to do. And so including data signals like weather, of course, but behavioral, contextual, real-world market conditions can not only help your data be more AI ready, but it could help you improve performance.
Yeah, well, let's keep going on that because I do see like performance swings week to week, and sometimes we can't even explain those. And I feel like those signals that you're talking about don't often tell the whole story, and it might be something outside the data. So talk a little bit, I mean, you're looking at external factors all the time. What do you see as like one environmental or weather signal that consistently moves conversion rate?
Without a doubt, that would be temperature deviation from the norm, right? So not an absolute temperature number on a thermometer, it's relative temperature, right? And I'll give you an example. A 50-degree day in Chicago in March drives very different behavior than a 50-degree day in Miami in March, right? In
That's
Chicago,
literally freezing.
that's right. So, right, people in Chicago, they're outside walking their dogs. They're, wearing shorts, drinking iced coffee. They're feeling optimistic, energized, right? In Miami, it's like the apocalypse. They are hunkered down, staying inside, eating hot soup, binge watching Netflix, right? The same exact temperature on the same day, but very, very different behaviors. And so what we see consistently is when temperatures spike above norm for a specific condition, so do conversion rates, right? We see it consistently across categories. We see travel, outdoor, restaurant reservations, home improvement product purchases, right? We see conversion rates increase from anywhere from 25 to 40% when that happens, right? And I would say for Zoom, it would actually be the opposite, right? When it's more extreme weather, heat waves, cold snaps, severe weather, right? That's when in-person meetings cancel and virtual usage goes up, within 24 to 48 hours, right? So it is really about what feels normal to somebody. When it goes above that, that's what helps to drive performance.
Interesting. Just across the board, open question for any of y'all. Contextual versus identity-based targeting in a privacy. Got hot take, here we go.
Hot take, yeah. So obviously podcasting, so Dan sort of, you alluded to this earlier, but obviously podcasting distribution ecosystem is notoriously signal poor. And so it therefore comes as no surprise that the targeting that's used for audio ad campaigns has been very contextual. The interesting thing is that what we've been trying to do is knit together contextual signal with deterministic signal. So I mentioned a company, Comscore, their Proximate division. We do a lot of work with them, and that's what they're doing there. They're using a machine learning tool in order to use deterministic seed sets from companies like TransUnion and Polk and XLA, and the list goes on. And they combine that with Comscore's global panel. I think they should be giving me $20 for this, shouldn't they? And then what they do with that is that they're transcribing consistently all of our podcast shows the moment they're published, and they're able to make predictive decisions, to your point, about conversations within those podcasts. And so that's when serendipity comes into it. So there's opportunities, and we have a huge number of B2B customers working with Acast, partly because of a lot of our podcasts. We have all of the very big international publishers, companies like the FT. But also in the sports realm, like The Athletic, they have all of their sports podcasts with us as well. So yeah, we're trying to marry those two together.
Yeah, I'm going to go way on the other side of that and say, and I'm going to talk about podcasts because I think it's a really interesting use case. I think we get too clever by half. And I think you need proper instrumentation to understand how to attribute properly, and some people try to over-engineer, some people under-engineer, but you need to get comfortable with your measurement framework. Once you have that, stop trying to get so fancy on the targeting, okay? I know you can find a podcast about anything and reach the 14 people that are gonna consume that. Forget it, that's not how you're gonna scale. There's more than half of the consumption in the channel, and most of the country listens to a podcast every week now, or watches. There's 100 people that are getting most of that consumption. There's a few thousand that are worth sponsoring, that are actually going to be worth your time to execute. And so this is an opportunity. The companies that really win, like I tell people, don't come into this channel if you're not ready to move there. Like, we don't need more tourists. Like, leave that to somebody else. I love what you said earlier, which is like, we're in too many channels. And people are like, oh, we're in podcasting. We did something with iHeart. We checked the box. It's like, no, we don't. Stop it. Either go all in, like be BetterHelp, be Shopify, like own your category and take it over, because actually an ownable channel that you can kick your competitors out of, and you can actually get a recommendation personally, authentically delivered by everybody that has a direct relationship with their audience. If they're making a referral, you can do that at scale, and you can own the whole thing top to bottom. You can't do that on CTV. You can't do that on other channels. But this is something where you can absolutely dominate. And I would rather see 20% of the volume of advertisers who are actually taking it seriously and going all in than people that are trying to really engineer how they can spend $250 in the channel and check the box and over program it. Like, forget it. Get serious or get out.
Hot take. Anybody else got anything to add on that one?
Amazingly, I agree. I'd like to disagree often, but I agree. I think there has become a bit of laziness in media and marketing strategy. It has, like, it's worked before and it haven't really been challenged in the past. And so that laziness results in that example, meaning I would think that this ad or this ad content is going to work here on this channel, and it's going to work here on this channel, and work here on this channel, and we're just going to push out media, and then we're going to get results. What people tend to forget is how the user is experiencing that content in around the ecosystem that it's in. So how you experience a podcast is completely different than how you experience a display ad, and how you experience a TikTok reel is completely different than how you experience a CTV ad. But when you look at your media pie, you have only so much budget, and then the strategy is you slice that into pies and percentages, and you don't even think about what the user is experiencing. You just say, okay, well, this is you're predefined your strategy. You predefine what you're doing. So you put 10% in audio, your laziness is going to be 10%. In the sense that you're just going to put like one ad in that channel, you're going to put like one audience. Whereas if you have 60% in, I don't know, CTV, your team's going to be that much more into the strategy and into the targeting and into the creative. So I think that's part of it, but we forget that the user experiences are completely different across these products, and like the idea of like sending out this one campaign everywhere and like just rinse, wash, repeat. Like we've got to move away from that and like really think about how is someone experiencing your brand when they're in a car. How are they experiencing Zoom? Like the idea of experiencing Zoom in a car is I can take my actual conference call while I'm listening to the ad. Whereas, if you're experiencing it in a display ad on a laptop, that's a completely different experience. But you're gonna like hear the same message and it's gonna be like the same targeting, the same audience. Like that's an example of, again, I use this term loosely, laziness, but it's just like the idea of like rinse, wash, repeating the same strategy.
I love that. And
I would say risk aversion would be the more generous.
It's Thursday, I can.
That would be the more generous term to our clients. Risk aversion versus laziness.
let's keep talking about risk aversion and/or laziness, but let's pivot to that on the creative side. So this is my personal pet peeve, right? AI slop, we all hate it. Everything kind of sounds the same. We all use the same models. They all use the same M dashes, right? They all use the word signal. It's not this, it's that. So
Durability.
right. So I feel like B2B already had a challenge, right? A little B2 boring was kind of what we were known for, and now you add AI slop onto it, and it feels like we're even more playing it safe. Feels forgettable in a lot of ways, but I'm a big believer that creative has the highest leverage, and it really is the highest leverage variable in performance. But we've just kind of forgotten about that. So I'm curious, in a world of AI slop, how do you actually quantify the impact of great creative?
Courage.
Courage, and then the bottom line. Like courage with measurement.
But what I'm
Also,
saying
we work
is
with
that-
Claritas. I'm on my 20.
If I can unpack that for a second, you're not going to make a signal without courage. And when you try and take a 180 word, 60-second script and you change 6 words and it's like, oh, we went from, pink to yellow, so to speak, like it's not going to move the needle. If you're going to try to come into some of these channels and take a long form asset and optimize it, like you probably need to do that in a very precise channel. If you can do headline testing in email or whatever, but like it is very, very hard to move the needle. It is very, very hard. So I think you have to be ready to do something that is bold, that actually gets people to pay attention. And most people, by the time it actually sees the market, it's gone through so many hands that they took the life out of it. It's never going to move anything.
So I want to double click on that for a second. When people are taking a risk, being courageous in creative, do you see that the best risks are at the highest level that ladders down to these different channels? Or do you think that each channel requires its own courageous risk?
Well, you look at a company like Liquid Death, right? Like just dripping with courage, right? They showed that you can do it, and that has to be a top-down thing. Somebody's got to put it on the line and not be in the risk management business, which, as we know, most marketers are. And sometimes there are great ones that say, I want to do something different here, and I'm willing to take some hits to make that happen. Up and down this beach, we're talking about 2 topics all week. We're talking about AI, and we're talking about creators, influencers, whatever.
And taste.
And taste, of course. Okay, but the point is, like, think about how polarized our ecosystem is now. We're either going artificial, robots, inhuman, or we're saying fully authentic, organic. But the truth is, like, that authenticity is really special. And if you want to control that message to even be able to do like creative testing, like the biggest creative test you can do is to have like 3 points you need a creator to make and let them go. Like let them sell in their own voice and do what they do, which is get attention, hold attention, and drive an audience to change the way that they see something. Most marketers won't do that because they want to micromanage it. They want to do it safe. What if they go off script? Now I get it.
Add on to this.
Yeah.
But also, I feel like too many clients want to be, I've heard this a few times, or want to be the next Liquid Death, Nobody's saying, I want to be the next Coca-Cola. Why are we setting our sights at incremental?
Well, because they don't have the budget for
Minimal
multi-generational strategy.
But that's, if you're talking about your aspiration, why are we not taking the big swings? I don't think you guys are sitting in a big swing that we took, because we made the decision as an executive team a few years ago to take most of our budget out of demand gen, lower funnel tactics, which is where we were getting a significant amount of revenue from, and said we are okay sacrificing that. We're going to move 80% of our budget into branding, events, our creative investment, because look at ad tech ads, they all look the same. So we wanted to do something different, tell a story with personality, invest in that creative. And we said, okay, we're all right sacrificing the inbound revenue in the short term because we think this is the right move in the long term. And the funny thing was that we actually increased inbound revenue. It went in the inverse. We got fewer leads, but they were higher quality, and so they converted at a higher rate.
And I'll just add, I mean, we launched our first brand campaign at the end of last year, and fully human made by funny people who
It's killer.
understand like
If you
cultural
haven't seen
relevance.
I use Zoom.
Yes,
Right.
by Colin Jost and starring Bowen Yang, and it really has driven demand efficiency. And I mean, we knew that it would, but in a way that is very easy to go to the board and say, look at how this is starting to improve the bottom line. And I'll also say we launched an influencer program, and the brief was one sentence. And you know, I was nervous,
That's courage.
but
That's
our
courage,
head
right up.
our head of brand and social was like, nope, this is what you got to do, and the results were killer.
I
So
I just want to add something here. I was at a performance marketers lunch in London just last week, and there were a couple of brands. I won't say who was there because it's Chatham House rules, but one of the individuals there was mentioning that when they speak to the platforms, and I think we all know who I mentioned by the platforms, whenever the campaign is not delivering in the way that they hope it would do, they're told you either need to spend more money or provide more creative, right? Now, how do you get more creative quickly? You use AI, obviously. And what is the quality of that creative? I think we're saying what we're saying, aren't we? Whereas obviously, you know, here I am banging the drum for podcasting, so to your point as well, you know, with a one-line brief, you know, we can do amazing things. Just as Dan was saying, our hosts, they have that relationship with the listeners. And, you know, we have an increasingly large number of, in your case, you know, B2B focused podcasts as well, business influencers, I guess they're called now, and they can do amazing things, not just with the host reads, we can also then extend that out with audio ad campaigns as well. Now we do use some generative AI, but we keep that very much under control. We have an internal team called the Ad Studio, and they do not turn everything over to the AI. They use it as another tool, basically, to improve the output.
So, one more ad, just because I can't stop talking. This is a very interesting time for this industry. Forever, I came from agency side. Forever, holdcos were valued their creative and creative development. That was their value. Like only those special, talented individuals on the planet could produce creative, and that is slowly, quickly going away. Meaning everyone in here now has the capability of creating content. And so this idea of where is generative AI used in marketing, I think we're still like a couple of years ago where it was being used as a prompt and then you switch yellow to blue. That's the wrong way to start thinking about how to leverage generative AI. The key is, how do I take that talent that still exists at those holdco agencies and use Gen AI to create not just one campaign that's unique, we can now create 100,000, whatever, maybe completely different, unique ideas. And then the data from the weather company, for instance, in that example where it's 50 degrees in Chicago and 50 degrees in Florida, you should have extremely different content. But forever, that was impossible to do. So you now have the opportunity to create very unique content for every city in the United States that could be unique to every individual.
that's something that, again, it's a shift. It's this idea of, okay, we can use the tool, but it's being used in the wrong way. And so it becomes this perception that generative AI is just simply changing a headline. Well, that's meant. Anyone can do that. The idea is, how do you take that talent and that campaign level thinking and use generative AI to create the versions, to create the uniqueness, create the campaigns, and multiply your media budget essentially with the creative messaging.
So before we go to some rapid fire, any thoughts, Danny, Liz, on this topic before?
I think we've probably all heard it in your company. Everyone's a marketer. Like, no one doesn't have feedback on what you're doing and how you could be doing it better. But I do think just to build a little bit on what you're talking about, I think the nice thing about AI, it's actually kind of democratized what we do a little bit. And now when people are like, have feedback for you, you're like, well, specifically, what is it? Or what is your idea? Like, it's much more reality in our ability to be more creative, take feedback, test, optimize, and it doesn't just have to come internally from marketing anymore. And I think this democratization is actually going to be quite exciting. And I think what we're going to find, is actually the biggest amplifier is going to be our employees at our company. Not necessarily our brands, like people who love our brand. It's actually our employees who have really unique ideas, who are doing really creative messaging. And I think it's going to be more important in marketing now for us to find those people who are doing it organically on Medium or in a podcast or like doing something in their own time. And then how do we find them and leverage them in marketing, I think is going to be really interesting in the coming years.
I agree. I think going back to the initial point, I think the brand strategy does need to start up here, right? But then there does need to be channel-specific messaging, and if generative AI, can help us do that more efficiently, I think that's where we're winning, right?
Excellent. All right, so we've got about 5 minutes, so we're going to get through maybe a couple of these. Feel free to just jump in. Not everybody has to answer every question in the essence of time, but I'm curious of what's the one thing that you think us CMOs underestimate about your specific channel?
I'll start. I think somebody mentioned it over here earlier about the two biggest topics being AI and creators on the cross set. I would argue that there's a third, and that's weather. Weather is one of the most influential drivers of consumer behavior, and I think it goes underutilized. People use it more tactically, like advertising iced coffee when it's cold outside, but it's so much more nuanced than that. It can drive so much more performance than that if it's used in a strategic way, both internally and in your external messaging as well.
Dan, what about podcasts?
Yeah, thank you. I think what happens is a lot of brands try to make it line up with all their other channels. If we're talking about podcasts, which is my fave, I think that it doesn't behave like other channels, and so you have to go deep. You have to commit resources. You have to look at media measurement, messaging, creator relations, onboarding, following up, monitoring the executions. This is hard. You're talking about swimming out to the best thing. Like, that's what you have to do, but you get out what you put into it. And if you just try to make it a box you check because you feel like it needs to be part of a balanced portfolio, like, don't bother. Either go big or go home.
I'll just add to that on the podcast thing. I think CMOs have fundamentally misunderstood just how important podcasts are in people's lives. And that is across the demographics. Our CEO, Greg Glende, who's doing an absolute tour at the moment, he's US based, but he's, like, broadly speaking, in other countries all the time. He talks about this all the time. He's like, podcasting seems like an emerging channel, but it's not. And interestingly, the one vertical of advertiser, other than your D2Cs like BetterHelp and Shopify, some of these big customers of ours, the one vertical of advertiser who's understood how important podcasting is political advertising. I mean, maybe we don't want to get into politics on this panel, but just see what podcasting did. Sorry, Don. Just see what podcasting did for a recent election at a very large company, a very large country, I should say.
Absolutely. All right, Dawn, what is the metric that us CMOs should stop obsessing over?
Reach.
Really? Tell me more.
I mean, you got to get the right message to the right person. You don't need to talk to necessarily hundreds of millions of people. There was an example about the podcast with 14 people listening. I could make an argument that if all 14 of those people are loyal customers and they buy your product over and over again, they could be more valuable than you get 1,000 single-time customers. You can make that argument. Well, I don't know if it's real or not, but you can make the argument. So again, I think that there's so much focus on we just need to talk to more people, but it's often, it kind of goes back to your other question. It's what if you just talk to the people at the right place in the right time? Like that would be much more effective use of your dollars versus just, I'm just gonna go and spend as much as I can do to talk to as many people. That incrementality, you're gonna see start to go down because you're just giving the same message to everyone. So again, I think that there's a tweak to that strategy that is, it's not necessarily just about reach, it's not just about frequency, but it's about the right place, right time, right message, and all of us experience, again, ads differently. To the podcast point, that's a very intimate channel. You are on an airplane listening to your headphones by yourself, like there's no one else around. Like that's a one-to-one experience. It's a completely different experience than a CTV ad. So again, like if you just want eyeballs or ears or whatever that is, okay, but you need to think about the messaging on a one-to-one level. That's where we have to start going. And again, we're still stuck like a couple of years ago where it's just everyone gets the same messaging and the same content. We have the opportunity to give every single person in this room a unique piece of content, and we keep like going.
All right, I'm gonna double down on this because I'm passionate, and anybody else can jump in. But I'm a marketing science nerd, and there is something to mental availability, right? And there's something to over targeting. And so I'm curious, like, and the
1000%.
cost. So
May I
anybody thoughts?
But I think most often that is the thing that my clients are coming to us with the issues. They are over targeting, and I also run our political team, and they were very guilty of it and are swinging around the other way and having good impact. Because you can get too obsessed about the targeting the lower funnel and not the upper funnel. If you drain the lower funnel and there's nothing coming in, the analogy still holds. So you have to be focused on that as well.
Well, thank you all. This was awesome. I feel like I learned a lot. So I appreciate all the hot takes and I appreciate all the contrarian thoughts. Thank you for being here, and I hope that y'all got something out of this conversation as well. Stay cool, stay hydrated, take a nap.
Talk more about the weather and Claritas.
Yeah.